right, welcome to the SnydeReport. I am your host, Gary Snyder. Before we get to our next guest, let me just thank our sponsors of the podcast. Number one, Robin Winston does a great job of helping us out here on the podcast and on the newsletter, getting it out to over 100,000 daily subscribers. And we can't forget about former Congresswoman Jill Long Thompson, great sponsor of the newsletter and the podcast. My guest today is Abdul-Hakim Shabazz of indiepolitics.org, and boy, a whole bunch of other things too, right?
Yes, my friend. When I try not to think about all the stuff I do, it just makes me more tired the older I get.
You know, and the more gray hair you get, the more the hairline recedes. It's just all there.
Well, I get my hair colored, so there we go.
I need to. I just keep mine short, so you really can't see it.
No, but always good to be your old friend.
Well, you know, I wanted to get you on because I've been watching your coverage of our Secretary of State, Diego Morales. You know, he's had controversy in the past. He's been in office for, 2 years. And, you know, it seems to be one controversy after another. And you've always been on top of this, especially the latest one where, you know, literally he became a cartoon. Where's Diego?
Yes, lots of controversy surrounding the Secretary of State. There's something about that end of the hallway that just makes life interesting. Down the State House, I want to say the Attorney General's office is literally right across the hallway from Diego Morales, so that ought to tell you everything that you need to know.
And he has an interesting flag flying now, I hear, outside of his office.
I try not to. I'll let the disciplinary commission deal with Todd Rokita and all that fun stuff. But Diego Morales is no stranger to controversy. His numerous trips for quote unquote economic development, I'm using air quotes here, whatever that is, his other issues with the legislature not showing up for budgetary hearings. He and Ed Delaney got into it. And when Ed Delaney, who's about as progressive a Democrat as you can get, and I am on the same political page, like this guy is just, what the heck's going on? When Ed Delaney and Abdul-Hakim Shabazz are on the same page, that'll tell you something that's really, really messed up.
So the controversy is, and correct me if I'm wrong, at least this time, is that Diego disappeared for approximately 10 days.
Yes.
No one other than his office knew where he was. He turns up in India based on social media posts and missed his budgetary hearing.
Yes.
And then shows back up, and people are still trying to find out who paid for his trip.
Yeah, people trying to find out who paid for his trip. Also, what I found out earlier today was that the nation of India might some sort of private financiers or India might have paid for his trip. I'm still trying to figure all that out. If they did, it's all got to be disclosed in either campaign finance reports or economic interest reports. So there's that part. He also went with a couple other people. So there are lots of questions out there on what's going on with Diego. Why is he making all these international trips? Why does he have his butt back here in Indiana doing Secretary of State type stuff? And it's gotten a lot of Republicans ticked off and mad, and would not be surprised to see at least one or two challengers next year when the Secretary is up for nomination at the state convention. Because you got to remember, Attorney General, Secretary of State, I don't want to say Comptroller, all picked by nominations at the convention. So that's a little something to keep in mind there.
Now, the conventions pick the offices that you just mentioned, and I guess they also pick the secretary the lieutenant governor, which, you know, created all kinds of controversy. Is there a difference between the electorate when you're looking at a caucus, a state caucus, picking the nominee?
Yeah. Because you think about it like this. In a primary, you have, kind of sort of hardcore Republicans and Democrats. At a state convention, you have even harder core Republicans, Democrats. At a caucus, you have like the hardest core of Democrats. So this is sort of like that mid-level. Because remember, Diego won at the nominating convention. He ran against Holly Sullivan. He beat Holly Sullivan because delegates were mad at Eric Holcomb over COVID, and they just took it out on Holly Sullivan. I think a lot of them are having buyer's remorse right now.
And that's pretty much the same way that happened with the lieutenant governor. Braun had picked his nominee. We had someone running Beckwith off to the side, and he ended up winning the nomination over bronze pick. Is that correct?
Yeah. Now, please note, the situation with Micah Beckwith and Julie McGuire was that the Braun team people, I remember covering this, were basically sort of acting like they'd already sort of won the thing, or kind of bullying people, and delegates don't really like that type of thing. Also, a number of convention delegates, I want to say from one of the counties in north central Indiana, didn't show up at all because Mike only won like 52, 48, 51, 49, so it was a close race from that perspective. But Michael won that because Michael learned the rules. He went to traveled to all 92 counties like Diego Alexis says he does. Spoke to delegates, went to every Lincoln Day because he can afford to do that as a pastor. Well, Julie, she's got to work for a living. So there was that part of the conversation too. But Diego was sort of the same thing. Diego didn't really have a job, so he could sort of travel all around, Indiana until stupid things start to happen.
When we take a look at Diego, I mean, we can go back to his trips to Hungary. We can talk about his hiring his brother-in-law, and wasn't there another controversy about Diego's brother-in-law
Which
getting
one?
a
there's so many of them I lose track after a while.
Well, I know the latest one was what I was reading anyway, had to do with his brother-in-law getting a large bonus. Something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, and also got remember too, when Diego first came into office, he had been disciplined a number of different times, by the original Secretary of State, and also too, he had sort of the alleged sexual harassment issues out there as well. So Diego and Controversy are kind of like Siamese twins. They're sort of joined at the hip, the arms, and the abdomen and the head.
Kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito and twins.
Yeah, except only their mothers could tell them apart.
So where does this go from here? I mean, when we take a look at Diego, you mentioned he may have a challenger or two next year, but I'm not hearing, and maybe you are. You're more in tune with Republican politics than I am.
Well, I do know there have been some investigations going on about possible sort of for him, giving bonuses and contracts to giving contracts to vendors, but the vendors have to give back money. Also, have heard about giving staff bonuses and staff raises, expect them to give money back as well. There's some other controversies that are out there right now. I would not be surprised if Diego is not on the ballot or does not run again next year because he's either he left through the here we go. He either left through the door or through the window.
Well, let me ask you, because he did win a caucus last time against Holcomb's nominee, or the nominee that he wanted. Are the Republicans that vote in caucuses upset with him?
Let's put it this way. From what I've been told, there's a lot of buyer's remorse right now. And it's one thing to defend somebody because they're Republican or Democrat. I get that. But some things you just can't defend. And I don't think Diego's behavior is defensible. Now, it may be defensible in a court of law, which is, I think, eventually where all this is going to go, one way or the other. But in the court of public opinion right now, I don't see Diego, get anywhere. But then again, as politics, things can change like in a day or two, or by the time this interview's over.
That could be. So where does this go? I mean, what does Diego do? I don't see Diego reeling in his behavior at all. I mean, he almost kind of flaunts it.
I think you're going to see the legislature sort of maybe step in with the power of the purse, and any sort of raises or budget increases he had, I don't see those happening because he's ticked off too many Republicans. And also, please keep in mind at his last budgetary hearing, the Democrats ripped him a new one, but the Republicans on the House committee didn't say anything because they didn't have to, because Ed Delaney was their hitman for them. So.
That was some good theater. I watched some of that, and I'm eating my popcorn and drinking my root beer off to the side, and really enjoying Diego being very uncomfortable.
Yeah, I was having my calamari and whiskey sour, but I understand.
All right, Abdul, anything else that maybe we need to know about this before we let you run?
Just we're in the last 30 days of the legislature now. They adjourn at the end of the year. They sign and die, which is Latin for get the hell out of there. So wait for everything to get wild and crazy. And by the way, also today is the 10th anniversary of RFRA, and also the 10th anniversary of the First Church of Cannabis. So lots of anniversaries today.
Bill Levin celebrating there at the Church of the Cannabis.
Yes, he is. Which I founded it. Because I remember when they passed the RFRA law, I was like, I think Indiana may have just legalized marijuana for religious purposes, which led into a whole bunch of other stuff. So we'll just leave it at that.
Which it did not. We still have to go to Michigan, Illinois, wherever.
For all intents and purposes, it's legal here. I mean, just go to any CBD shop in town and get whatever you want.
And I'll get off track here just a minute. One of the laws being, put forth is banning advertising, billboards for marijuana. Does that help at all?
That language has been taken out and gone now.
Because that would have stopped everyone. We wouldn't have known about it.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, you couldn't advertise marijuana, but you could advertise, hey, CBD, quote, and other stuff. So.
Well, because up here in Fort Wayne, those billboards are everywhere.
Yeah,
the grass is green.
From Ohio and Michigan, you're literally like right next door.
My favorite is the grass is greener in Michigan.
Yeah. Another thing to keep in mind, too, my friend, before I let you go here, because I got to run and go cover another event. The one thing to keep in mind is in the state of Indiana, there is not one person who is more than an hour and, say, maybe 10, 20 minutes drive from legal marijuana, either in Ohio, Michigan, or Illinois, or to a lesser degree, Kentucky. So you may as well argue that marijuana legalization in Indiana is inevitable, but just like daylight savings time and I-69, it just takes a while.
Well, Abdul, before we let you run, and I know you have other things to get to, where can people find your work?
You can find my work at indiepolitics.org. And also, you can find me on Twitter at ATTYAbdul or IndiePolitics.org. Lots of news, lots of interviews. And also, while you're up there, get yourself a copy of the cheat sheet, because a lot of these bad news for politicians tend to hit, it's in the cheat sheet first.
Well, if you could just hold on 1 second when we're done here, and then we'll let you go. But before we do, I need to thank our sponsors again. Robin Winston does a great job of helping us out, and former Congresswoman Jill Long Thompson. I'm Gary Snyder. He's not. He's Abdul-Hakim Shabazz, and you're listening to the SnydeReport.